Sophie Cunningham went from being just another WNBA player to becoming the most controversial figure in women's basketball in less than a month. And the shocking part? She's loving every second of it. What started as defending Caitlin Clark turned into $1 million empire, death threats, citywide feuds, and a petition to ban her from the league entirely. But here's what nobody's talking about. The real reason Sophie Cunningham became public enemy #1 might shock you more than anything she's done on the court. Before we dive into this insane story, make sure to hit that like button if you're ready for some WNBA drama, and subscribe for more exclusive content you won't find anywhere else. Trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next on this channel. Picture this: June 17th, 2025. The Indiana Fever are battling the Connecticut Sun in what should have been just another regular season game. But what happened in those final minutes would change Sophie Cunningham's life forever. When J.C. Sheldon poked Caitlin Clark in the eye, something snapped in Cunningham. She didn't just retaliate, she started a war that would divide the entire WNBA. The flagrant 2 foul she delivered wasn't just a basketball play. It was a declaration that she was done watching her teammate get bullied. And in that moment, Sophie Cunningham transformed from a role player into Caitlin Clark's personal enforcer. But the story gets even crazier. Within 24 hours of that game, something unprecedented happened. Cunningham's social media following exploded like nothing anyone had ever seen in women's sports. We're talking about gaining over 700,000 TikTok followers in less than a week. Her Instagram blew up from relative obscurity to over 1 million followers. Marketing experts calculated that if a brand wanted to gain that kind of following organically, they'd have to spend over $1 million. Sophie Cunningham got it for the price of a $400 fine from the league. Here's where things take a dark turn, though. While Fever fans were treating her like a hero, buying out every single one of her jerseys in the team's store, a group of WNBA fans started something that would make headlines across the sports world. A petition on change.org emerged, demanding that Sophie Cunningham be permanently banned from the WNBA. The petition's language was brutal, accusing her of, quote, compromising the safety of other players and tarnishing the reputation of the league. They called her actions violent, malicious, and claimed she was setting a poor example for young athletes everywhere. The petition gained nearly 350 signatures, but here's the twist. Many people signed it just to leave comments defending Cunningham. One fan wrote, and I quote, "I only signed this so I could leave a comment. The person who created this is not a WNBA fan. They are a troll who needs to leave the W and its players alone." Sophie Cunningham took a stand, but the damage was done. The narrative was set. Sophie Cunningham had become the villain of the WNBA, at least to some fans. But Cunningham didn't back down. In fact, she doubled down in the most savage way possible. When asked about the incident, she didn't apologize. She didn't express regret. Instead, she went straight for the jugular, calling out the refs and the league itself. She said, and this is a direct quote, "It was a buildup for a couple years now of them just not protecting the star player of the WNBA. At the end of the day, I'm going to protect my teammates. That's what I do." Those words would echo throughout the basketball world and cement her reputation as Caitlin Clark's bodyguard. The financial impact of this controversy was mind-blowing. According to sports business outlet Sportico, Cunningham's social media boom translated to unprecedented growth that marketing agencies valued at over $1 million. An anonymous sports management agency director called it, quote, unprecedented growth in the history of women's sports social media. Think about that for a second. One hard foul, one ejection, one $400 fine, and Sophie Cunningham became a millionaire in social media value overnight. But if you thought that controversy was wild, what happened next would make it look like child's play. Just when Sophie Cunningham was riding high on her newfound fame, she decided to take on not just players or refs, but entire cities. And this is where our story goes from controversial to absolutely explosive. On July 1st, 2025, the WNBA announced its expansion plans. 3 new teams would be joining the league: Cleveland in 2028, Detroit in 2029, and Philadelphia in 2030. Most people celebrated this as growth for women's basketball. Sophie Cunningham, she basically told 2 major American cities that nobody wanted to play there. Her exact words were, "I don't know how excited people are to be going to Detroit or Cleveland." She then suggested that cities like Miami, Nashville, and Kansas City would have been better choices. The backlash was swift and brutal. Donovan Mitchell, the Cleveland Cavaliers superstar, immediately fired back on social media, posting Cleveland in the summertime with fire emojis. Dan Gilbert, the billionaire owner of the Cavaliers, didn't hold back either. He posted, "Come on, Sophie. Obviously, you haven't been to Detroit or Cleveland. You should support your Midwest sisters in this league and these two great cities that you're going to come to know and love very shortly." But the most savage response came from the city of Cleveland's official account. They posted a video of Sophie's own teammate, Caitlin Clark, praising Cleveland when she visited for the NCAA Final Four. The caption read, "Sophie, your teammate doesn't seem to think Cleveland is too bad. We're proud to have been chosen to host a WNBA team, and any player who comes here will feel that legendary passion Cleveland sports fans show our teams." The city of Detroit also clapped back, reminding everyone that when they had a WNBA team, the Detroit Shock, they ranked top 5 in attendance for 5 straight seasons and won 3 championships. Even the Los Angeles Sparks got in on the action. After beating the Fever 89-87, their social media team posted a photo with the caption, "LA is a great place to play," with a winking emoji. It was a direct shot at Cunningham's comments, and it stung even more because the Fever had just lost the game. Sophie tried to backtrack, claiming she was misunderstood and that she actually comes from farm country and supports blue-collar workers. But the damage was done. She had managed to anger 2 major metropolitan areas, their sports teams, their billionaire owners, and millions of fans. Sports media had a field day with it, with headlines calling her out for disrespecting expansion cities. But wait, there's more drama. Just when you thought Sophie Cunningham couldn't possibly be involved in any more controversy, reports surfaced about alleged accusations from her time with the Phoenix Mercury. According to CBS Sports, Sophie had to release a statement denying what she called extremely hurtful false accusations about an alleged affair with a Phoenix Suns and Mercury executive. She called the accusations morally reprehensible and said she didn't even know the person making the claims. The Mercury organization had to release their own statement supporting her, calling the claims entirely false. But once again, Sophie Cunningham found herself at the center of a massive controversy that dominated sports headlines. It seemed like everywhere she turned, drama followed. Through all of this, one thing became crystal clear. Sophie Cunningham had become the most polarizing figure in the WNBA. To Indiana Fever fans, she was a hero, a warrior, someone who finally stood up for their superstar when nobody else would. Her jersey sales proved it. Completely sold out, unavailable until weeks later. Fans created entire social media accounts dedicated to her, with handles like Sophie Cunningham Central gaining tens of thousands of followers overnight. But to her critics, she represented everything wrong with the modern WNBA. They saw her as violent, disrespectful, and attention-seeking. The petition to ban her kept gaining signatures, with people arguing that she was setting a terrible example for young players. Some accused her of using the Caitlin Clark situation to boost her own profile and make money off controversy. The divide was so intense that it sparked a larger conversation about protection in the WNBA. Many analysts and former players started discussing whether stars like Caitlin Clark were being targeted and whether the league was doing enough to protect its marquee players. Sophie's actions and words had opened a can of worms that the WNBA couldn't ignore anymore. Even her own coach, Stephanie White, had to address the situation. She said, "It's been happening all season long. When officials don't get control of the ball game, when they allow that stuff to happen, this is what happens. You've got competitive women who are the best in the world at what they do, and when you allow them to play physical, they're gonna compete, and they're gonna have their teammates' backs." The numbers tell an incredible story. Before the Connecticut Sun incident, Sophie Cunningham was averaging just 5.3 points per game. She wasn't a star. She wasn't even a starter most nights. But her social media following grew by over 900% in less than 2 weeks. Marketing experts called it the single fastest organic growth in sports influencer history. Brands started reaching out, endorsement opportunities flooded in, and suddenly, Sophie Cunningham wasn't just a role player anymore, she was a brand. But here's what makes this story even more fascinating. Sophie embraced it all. She started wearing custom shirts featuring herself, Caitlin Clark, and teammate Lexi Hull with the words "Tres Leches" printed on them. For those who don't know, that translates to 3 milks, a cheeky reference that had fans going wild. She posted videos on TikTok celebrating hitting 1 million followers. She gave interviews where she declared, "No one likes us, and we don't care." The transformation was complete. Sophie Cunningham had gone from being traded to Indiana as part of a 10-team deal that most people didn't even notice, to becoming one of the most talked about players in the league. And she did it not through scoring or assists or traditional basketball achievements. She did it by being willing to fight, literally and figuratively, for her teammate. Sports psychologists started analyzing the phenomenon. They called it the enforcer effect, when a role player gains massive popularity by protecting a star. It's common in hockey, somewhat common in basketball, but had never been seen to this extent in women's sports. Sophie Cunningham had created a new archetype in the WNBA, the social media savvy enforcer who wasn't afraid of controversy. The financial implications went beyond just social media. Ticket sales for Fever games started including people specifically coming to see Sophie Cunningham. Her number 8 jersey became a hot commodity on resale markets, sometimes selling for 3 times the retail price. Sports business analysts estimated that her controversy-driven fame added at least $2 million in value to the Indiana Fever franchise in merchandise and ticket sales alone. But perhaps the most shocking development came when ESPN analyst Carolyn Peck made comments suggesting the Fever were actually more dangerous without Caitlin Clark. She specifically praised other players, but notably left out Sophie Cunningham. Fans immediately noticed and called it out as disrespect to Clark's bodyguard. The backlash was so intense that Barstool Sports founder Dave Portnoy got involved, posting, "I knew this was gonna happen." The situation reached a boiling point when reports emerged about the grueling WNBA schedule and how it was affecting players. Sophie spoke out about this too, saying the team had dealt with a lot of distractions, injuries, and didn't know who was playing from game to game. She called the tough schedule just an excuse, but admitted she needed to do better for her teammates. It was a rare moment of vulnerability from someone who had built her brand on being tough and unapologetic. As the 2025 season progressed, Sophie Cunningham's story became bigger than basketball. She represented something larger, the debate about protection, physicality, and marketing in women's sports. Love her or hate her, everyone had an opinion about Sophie Cunningham. Sports talk shows debated her actions daily. Social media was divided into Team Sophie and Anti-Sophie camps. She had become exactly what the WNBA needed, even if they didn't want to admit it. A lightning rod for attention and conversation. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. Sophie Cunningham, who joined the Fever expecting to be a veteran role player providing leadership and depth, had instead become the story. She generated more headlines than players averaging 20 points per game. She drove more social media engagement than established all-stars. She sold more jerseys than players who had been in the league twice as long. But here's the thing that nobody talks about: the pressure that comes with that kind of instant fame. Sources close to the team reported that Sophie was dealing with death threats, constant scrutiny, and a level of attention she had never experienced in her 6 previous WNBA seasons. Every game, every practice, every social media post was analyzed and debated. She couldn't even wear a funny t-shirt without it becoming a news story. Yet through it all, Sophie Cunningham remained defiant. She continued to play her physical brand of basketball. She continued to speak her mind about the league, the cities, the referees. She continued to protect Caitlin Clark with a ferociousness that bordered on obsessive. And most importantly, she continued to grow her brand, understanding that in modern sports, controversy can be more valuable than championships. The question everyone's asking now is what's next for Sophie Cunningham? Will she continue to be Caitlin Clark's enforcer? Will she apologize to Cleveland and Detroit? Will the petition to ban her gain more traction? Will she sign a massive endorsement deal and cash in on her controversial fame? Nobody knows for sure, but one thing is certain: Sophie Cunningham isn't going anywhere, and she's not changing for anyone. As we wrap up this incredible story, it's important to remember that this all started with one player standing up for her teammate. Whether you think Sophie Cunningham is a hero or a villain, you can't deny that she changed the game. She showed that in the modern WNBA, being memorable might be more important than being great. She proved that social media can turn a role player into a superstar overnight. And most importantly, she demonstrated that sometimes being the most hated can make you the most loved. What do you think about Sophie Cunningham's transformation from unknown player to WNBA's most controversial figure? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into one of basketball's wildest stories, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next exclusive story. Trust me, if you thought this was crazy, wait until you see what we've got coming next. Until then, this is your source for the stories the mainstream media won't tell you. Peace out!